Somewhere in the cold northern shipyards of Russia, under a gray sky and away from the noise of headlines, a familiar silhouette has slowly been coming back to life. For years, many in the West quietly assumed it was finished, a relic of Soviet ambition, too costly to repair, too outdated to matter. But the story was never that simple, because in Moscow's long strategic memory, platforms are rarely abandoned without purpose. And now, after years of repairs, delays, and skepticism, Russia's only aircraft carrier, Admiral Kuznetsov, is moving once again into the conversation. And NATO planners are watching far more carefully than public statements suggest. To understand why Kuznetsov still matters in 2026, you have to step back from the meme-level commentary that has surrounded the ship for years. Yes, the carrier has had problems. Yes, its modernization has faced delays. But serious military planners do not measure naval power by internet narratives. They measure capability, geography, and intent. And from that perspective, the return of Admiral Kuznetsov is not about matching the United States carrier for carrier. It is about something far more specific, controlled regional power projection under Arctic and North Atlantic conditions. Admiral Kuznetsov was never designed to be a mirror image of American supercarriers. From the beginning, Soviet naval doctrine followed a different logic. Where the United States built floating air bases for global dominance, the Soviet Union built carriers to support layered maritime defense, protect ballistic missile submarines, and complicate NATO naval operations near Russian strategic bastions. Kuznetsov fits precisely into that doctrine. Even today, its role is less about global strike and more about regional denial, creating uncertainty in areas where NATO prefers uncontested access. The ship itself, commissioned in the late Soviet period, was built around a hybrid philosophy that still makes Western analysts pause. Unlike U.S. carriers, Kuznetsov carries heavy anti-ship missiles in addition to its air wing. That decision was not accidental. Soviet planners assumed their carrier might have to fight while its aircraft were grounded by weather, distance, or operational tempo. In the harsh northern seas, redundancy is survival. Even now, that design choice gives the platform a layered threat profile that is different from purely aviation-centric carriers. But the real story in 2026 is not what Kuznetsov was, it is what Russia appears to be trying to make it become. After years in overhaul, the carrier has reportedly undergone significant work on propulsion reliability, deck systems, and aviation support infrastructure. Western observers often focus on the timeline delays, but inside naval planning circles, the more important question is capability restoration. If Kuznetsov returns to sea with improved sortie coordination, more reliable boilers, and updated onboard systems, it does not need to match a U.S. Nimitz-class carrier to complicate NATO calculations. It only needs to be credible inside Russia's core maritime theaters. Geography amplifies everything here. Russia does not need Kuznetsov to patrol the Pacific indefinitely or dominate the Mediterranean full-time. What Moscow needs, and what NATO quietly plans around, is the ability to surge naval aviation into the Barents Sea, the Norwegian Sea, and key Arctic approaches. In those waters, distances are shorter, land-based support is closer, and the carrier becomes a force multiplier rather than a lone centerpiece. This is the part often missed in public discussion. Kuznetsov operating near Russian air defense umbrellas and submarine bastions is a very different problem than Kuznetsov sailing alone into the Atlantic. The air wing itself also remains central to the equation. Historically, the carrier has operated Su-33 fighters and later MiG-29K variants, both designed for high-speed interception and maritime strike roles. If modernization efforts have improved sortie coordination, maintenance cycles, and deck handling efficiency, even a modest air wing can extend Russian naval reach in ways that force NATO to allocate additional surveillance and interception assets. Naval aviation is not just about strike power, it is about presence, radar coverage, and forcing the opponent to react. From Moscow's perspective, the timing of Kuznetsov's potential return is not random. The Arctic is rapidly becoming one of the most strategically dense regions on the planet. Shortest missile trajectories, expanding Northern Sea route activity, undersea infrastructure, and NATO's growing Northern focus have all raised the stakes. In that environment, even a single operational Russian carrier adds a layer of complexity to Western planning. Not dominance, complexity. And in modern military strategy, forcing the opponent to spend more resources and attention is often a victory in itself. Western naval analysts publicly remain cautious, sometimes dismissive, but historically, NATO planning culture is conservative by necessity. Even limited capability platforms are taken seriously if they operate inside protected geographic zones. The real concern is not that Kuznetsov suddenly becomes equal to U.S. carrier strike groups. The concern is that it does just enough to stretch surveillance networks, complicate maritime patrol patterns, and support Russian surface and submarine operations during periods of tension. There is also an industrial and signaling dimension that matters. By continuing to invest in Kuznetsov rather than retiring it, Russia is sending a quiet message about naval continuity. Carrier operations require specialized pilot training, deck crews, maintenance ecosystems, and doctrinal experience that take decades to build and only a few years to lose. Keeping Kuznetsov alive, even imperfectly, preserves that institutional knowledge. From a long-term military perspective, that alone has strategic value. Critics often point to the rise of long-range missiles and drones as proof that traditional carriers are fading. But the reality inside modern naval warfare is more nuanced. Carriers are evolving, not disappearing. Even in an era of hypersonic threats and precision strike weapons, mobile sea-based aviation still provides flexibility that fixed bases cannot fully replace. Russia understands this. The Kuznetsov program, despite its difficulties, reflects a belief in maintaining at least a limited carrier competency for future contingencies. Another factor quietly shaping NATO concern is uncertainty. Western planners prefer predictable force structures. A fully retired Kuznetsov would be easy to model out of future scenarios. A partially modernized, intermittently deployed Kuznetsov is far more complicated. It introduces variable air coverage, unpredictable deployment windows, and additional layers to Arctic and North Atlantic contingency planning. Uncertainty in military strategy has weight, sometimes more than raw numbers. Of course, serious limitations remain. Even after modernization, Kuznetsov will likely face constraints in sortie rate compared to U.S. supercarriers. Its air wing is smaller. Its support ecosystem is more geographically concentrated. But none of those realities automatically make the platform irrelevant. Military history is full of systems that were dismissed publicly, yet forced quiet adjustments behind the scenes. The key question is not whether Kuznetsov is perfect, it is whether it is operational enough to matter in the specific theaters Russia cares most about. As of early 2026, the signals suggest Moscow still believes the answer is yes. Repair cycles have continued. Training pipelines appear to be preserved. Northern fleet planning still incorporates carrier aviation concepts. And perhaps most importantly, Russia continues to invest attention and resources into keeping the ship viable, rather than quietly decommissioning it. In strategic culture, sustained investment usually reflects sustained intent. For NATO, the prudent response is not panic, it is adjustment. Additional maritime patrol coverage, continued Arctic monitoring, flexible carrier group positioning, quiet planning updates rather than public alarm. That pattern has repeated many times throughout Cold War history and appears to be repeating again, though in a more technologically complex environment. The bigger lesson of Admiral Kuznetsov in 2026 is not about one ship's technical specifications. It is about how military relevance is often misunderstood outside professional planning circles. Platforms rarely need to be perfect to influence strategy. They only need to be capable enough, in the right place, at the right time, under the right protective umbrella. By that standard, the slow return of Russia's only aircraft carrier is not something NATO is likely to ignore, no matter how casually it may be discussed in public. Whether Kuznetsov ultimately achieves full operational rhythm again remains to be seen. Sea trials, air wing readiness, and long-term reliability will tell the real story. But one thing is already clear: the carrier that many observers wrote off years ago is still part of Russia's naval equation,